Hello everybody, so this video is entitled Stretch's Best Week. It was the best week for Stretch, but before I talk about Stretch, I need to tell you about MSTR and things that I've seen online about MSTR, because MSTR stock itself hasn't really moved in a week. In fact, in the morning of Monday, April 6th, it was about 127, 128, and right now, Friday evening, this video is Saturday morning, of course, but it is still trading at 128 and change. And so people complain, people are upset. They see the mNAV compressing again, and they are upset. Remember, a few weeks ago we were at 1.2, and they're especially upset because they're short-term thinking, and they see that Bitcoin over the same period is up about 6%, right? Nearly 6%, and strategy hasn't really, done very, very well. Past 5 days, it did like 3.5%, but you could construe that it hasn't moved if you bought it midday on Monday. Here's the thing: if you are not happy that the stock hasn't moved short term, then MSTR is not for you. MSTR is absolutely not a short term stock. And I would argue there's not a lot of stocks that are behaving short term. You generally should never expect a stock to move your direction in the short term. Over the long run, MSTR is going to be a weighing machine, and it's going to be weighed based on how much Bitcoin it's got on the balance sheet. And I actually believe, and this is kind of my growing take on this, and my view is that as long as we are at a 1 mNAV, we're good. We're good, and ideally, I could see the MSTR stock behaving something like Stretch behaves. Like I would actually be okay, and I would even like a world where we could predict mNAV, and where actually Saylor ATMs at 101. Right, 1.01x mNAV EMTM. When the mNAV hits 1, you stop ATMing, and so during the day we could have a very parametric price movement of MSTR actually moving based on how much Bitcoin there is on the balance sheet, and moving as a multiple of a BTC yield, and the Bitcoin as opposed to moving as a multiple of mNAV. We could entirely remove the mNAV factor in valuation of strategy if we had a system where we know whenever we're trading at 1.1x mNAV EATMs, 1x is stop, 0.99 is stop, 1.1x EATMs, and keeping that mNAV flat at 1. I would actually love that, because if you had that, then the stock of MSTR would be much more predictable. The stock of MSTR would move every week based on how many more Bitcoin are reported as bought, right? And so you can see you would have what? Was it 14% increase in BTC already since the end of 2025? End of 2025, we had 672,000 Bitcoin. Today, 766,000 Bitcoin. So if you price MSTR in Bitcoin, we move from 672 to 766. That's what happened if you price MSTR in Bitcoin. And of course, the fiat return would simply be the Bitcoin bag times the price of Bitcoin, and you would get the fiat return. But if MSTR only traded at a 1x mNAV over the long run, the Bitcoin yield would be the return of the stock, which would be perfectly fine by me. I do not expect multiple expansion, mNAV multiple expansion. I don't expect that at all to be part of my pricing. And in fact, if we got into euphoria, imagine how wild it could be if we ATM'd so hard into euphoria that we kept the mNAV at 1. Like, we could accumulate so much permanent capital by just raising funds during a period of euphoria on the MSTR common. So that's kind of my take on this. I love to see ATM at 1.09, and actually wouldn't mind if he ATM'd at 1.01. I actually wouldn't mind. It would make the stock much more predictable if we didn't have multiple changes in the mNAV multiple for the price. Okay, so this video is mostly about Stretch, though. Let's talk about Stretch. Stretch has had the absolute best week in the history of Stretch, in my view. right? And we had especially strong ATM on Friday, and there was one specific 5-minute period on Friday where the volume went through the roof. But anyways, Stretch.live telling us more than 9,000 Bitcoin likely acquired from the Stretch ATM, and we knew how off, right? Stretch.live was very well. It's tough to do. I love Stretch.live, but they were off last week. So could it be 10,000 Bitcoin? Could it be 12,000 Bitcoin? What's the margin of error on this? Probably pretty high. And my guess is that we're higher than 9,000 Bitcoin on Stretch. My guess is we're more than 10,000. At least that would be a nice round number. So I would look at that. Quickly about Stretch. So I was mentioning how I love the MSTR common ATM. We need that MSTR common ATM to actually create permanent capital on the balance sheet. And you can see the BTC rating. This is the BTC rating. So on Stretch is 4.4x. Total preferred BTC rating is 4.3x. So what does that mean? That means there's 3.4 times as much capital backing the debt. This is all about the credit worthiness of the debt. If Saylor did not keep doing the common ATM, there would not be any new permanent capital on which to write Stretch. You gotta write Stretch on permanent capital, right? So he needs to keep the common ATM going to create the permanent capital that will then be used to issue ever more Stretch. And if he didn't do that, if he didn't issue new permanent capital via the common ATM, Stretch would be constrained by the price of Bitcoin, by the price of Bitcoin. And you could issue more Stretch only when Bitcoin goes up. Right? So it's better to have a dual approach to not only count on the price appreciation of Bitcoin to increase the BTC rating, which then leads you to issue more preferred, but also count on the BTC yield, which is you acquire more Bitcoin by issuing more shares via the common ATM. Okay, moving on, once again, talking about Stretch and how, again, the word I want to use to define this is parametric. I mean, this looks like an AC chart. Like, this is so engineered. Like, we're trading now fractions of a pennies. This is the Senti stablecoin, right? It's literally trading at 100. Right? And every single time we drop, what do? We ATM. We ATM. Every single time we try to go up, there's more demand, we ATM. The volume comes in, we ATM, we issue more Stretch, and it trades at 100. And that is beautiful, the precision of this instrument, right? This instrument is designed to trade at 100. Of course, big milestone next week on April 15 when the stock goes ex-dividend. Question is, how long does it take us to get back to 100? Right? Hopefully a day. That'd be really nice if it only took us a day to get back to 100. Okay. Over 5 days, same story. Over 5 days, we are so parametric. We are so trading at 100 the whole time. The Senti stablecoin is actually working. And I want to point out, of course, this tweet from the CEO of Strategy, Feng Li, right? Michael Saylor is the executive chairman. If you look, Stretch average trading volume 4.5%. That's bigger than Tesla. There's more interest. Well, if you want to name it like this, there's more. If trading volume is a proxy for interest, you could say there's more interest in a stock like Stretch than there is this Tesla. Stretch is only second to Strategy. Stretch interest is only second to Strategy. So a lot of people are really loving Stretch in this market. It's heavily traded. It's got tremendous liquidity. And that's a really big deal. And of course, Saylor tweeting, we are closing at 526 million volatility in a single day at par, right? Closed at par at 100. I want to tweet also this from Mark Harvey, share this Saylor repost. You can see the trading volume is just going up. It's just one way to the upside, going up to the upside. Just like the BTC yield. The BTC yield is only going up, right? We are only adding Bitcoin to the balance sheet, right? Right here, we're only adding volume. It's a beautiful, predictable chart. And we are doing this in the face of really, really awful macro and like really bad news about interest rates and the market pricing no more decreases, right? No more cuts. The market is pricing no more cuts. We have a very tough macro environment. The macro environment is very tough, and we are going up. We've been parabolic since the beginning of the year as far as the volume goes. So the success is undeniable, in my view. I love Stretch. And lastly, I'll conclude with this. Fear and greed, we are now nearing 50. We are right in the middle of neutral. Right in the middle of neutral. And of course, you know, fear and greed didn't fail either. Like, you know, when we were at extreme fear, a lot of people say when you're at extreme fear, that's a good time to buy. Well, Bitcoin's at 73,000 right now, right? It fell down to 60. At the beginning of the macro madness. So we're now back at a 49. So Bitcoin's doing better. As Bitcoin's doing better, the volume on Stretch is doing better. The volume on MSTR is doing better. And yeah, people complain about the short-term price movement. But out of all of the stocks I own, this is perhaps the one where I have the least short-term expectations. I have been in this stock since the very, very early days of the channel. In fact, one of the very first videos that I made on this channel, I covered strategy. Back then, it was just to get exposure to Bitcoin. So anyways, pretty fascinating stuff if you ask me. Pretty fascinating stuff. And I am celebrating yet again this and what is going on with Stretch. It's amazing. This was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.